Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. The market's looking pretty decent so far. We're seeing a nice pop back up with the S&P 500. Volatility is still high, but there isn't any crazy news this morning like we had yesterday with that CPI data. Also, there weren't too many major earnings this morning. Most of the major earnings are already done. But yeah, I mean, so far, yeah, perfect, Tom. Tom has the chart pulled up. So we can see nothing major. But Tom, what are you thinking with the market heading into today, and what stocks are you watching?
Yeah, I'm really just watching the S&P 500 in general, and then I'm going to be keeping my eyes on some of these bigger tech stocks, of course. We saw the SPY start dipping down yesterday, and we saw some tech stocks like AMD start to tumble down like 5%. So I'm going to keep my eyes on them, and then also stocks like Apple and Microsoft. I think that's going to be very important today. If we want to see a recovery out of the SPY, I think we need to see some type of move up with these tech stocks. So hopefully it happens, but right now it looks like Apple's actually having a pretty good opening so far. So hopefully the momentum keeps up here.
Gotcha. Yeah, Apple's definitely going to play a pretty big role in the market's movement, and you can see the same thing about all of the major tech stocks. So Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, maybe Facebook, Google, stuff like that. So it's always good to see them in the green. Looking at some of my plays so far, or my watch list, I should say, Square's looking pretty good, Tom. They're up over 5% already, so they definitely have some good momentum. Definitely keep them on your radar. DraftKings is in the green by almost 2%. Redfin's in the green. Zoom's in the green, so it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, it really is. I'm so glad to see these growth stocks doing this. Like you mentioned, DraftKings is going up. Square's having a really good day, Mike, especially when we look at Square yesterday. They were exploding up at market open, and then they kind of tumbled off with the S&P 500 at the end of the day. And I feel like it's just such good news to see them rising. Like we said, even after Apple came out with that news where they were going to turn their smartphones into almost like a transaction terminal or whatever you want to call like the credit card machine pretty much. But you know how Square, they make those dongles that, you can swipe and insert your cards on. And I know Apple had that pretty good news. So it's really good to see them running up. And honestly, they're almost recovering up back to those highs of yesterday at this point.
True that. So yeah, keep Square on your radar. Matt's coming in saying he's eagle-eyeing Twilio today. He said he needs it above 210. So, well, we're very close to 210. We're at just under 211 right now. So hopefully it keeps moving that way for you, and it's looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, it's looking decent. It's kind of double bottoming down here right around 205, and hopefully it ends up closing above 210. I don't know if you have something expiring today, but I would definitely say, though, hopefully it stays up. It's looking pretty decent so far. And I would say if it starts to pop off these lows around 205, we could start to see a pretty good move back to the upside with Twilio. They got beaten down after those earnings pretty badly. And I would hope they could recover up a little bit, maybe back up to 220 or something like that.
Gotcha. Alrighty, so that's good to see. Let's see what else we have going on. Let's see. Yeah, Zoom's up there. I'm really waiting for a recovery with Zoom. I've been watching this one forever, Tom, and it's just I feel like it's getting way too oversold, especially with the numbers they're putting up. It's kind of ridiculous that the levels that they're at, but I guess their earnings will definitely play a big role when they report. And Tom, what do they report in a week or two?
Yeah, in a couple weeks on February 28th after market close. So we'll definitely have to eye that one up. It's going to be very interesting, Mike. And I will say, I mean, they're setting up pretty well here. They're double bottoming around 135 to 136. They look like they're setting up pretty well. They're starting to run back to the upside. That IV is starting to move up as well. And I think the market's just going to be expecting a bit of a move here. And, we've been seeing some stocks pop back up with their earnings. And Zoom is one that's actually had decent numbers over the past few quarters. Even whenever they ended up falling, they still had pretty decent numbers. So I'm really hoping to see them get a nice pop. And, we've been seeing some of these stocks pop on earnings lately. So hopefully we see Zoom start to make that move back to the upside after all these huge gap downs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's due, Tom. Definitely. I really think it's due for a nice pop-up. So we'll definitely keep that one on the watch list. We have Mike saying, "Good morning, everyone. What happened to Upwork?" So I actually really like this company, but it's getting smacked right now. It's down over 10% today. I'm definitely going to sell some puts on this one later, maybe even buy some shares, but it's a longer term play. It's risky. It's definitely not for everyone. It's a company that I've used in the past, and it's a company that I believe in. It's nowhere near like a grade A fundamental setup, but anyways, to answer your question, they did report earnings. They weren't like amazing earnings, but they were pretty decent. I actually listened to most of the earnings conference call. Just a quick summary. We can see that here. I'm just going to pull up an article really quickly. So their CEO said 2021 was a remarkable year for Upwork, not only in how far we pushed our business forward, but also in how clearly it has set our path for continued performance in 2022 and beyond. Revenue topped Wall Street expectations in the past quarter. Profit was in line with estimates. And here's the thing that's kind of making the stock fall a little bit. So the outlook for this quarter and the full year for revenue is better than expectations, but the profit is below expectation. So it's like their revenue's expected to be really good, but their profit is not, and the market did not like that. One pretty cool thing, though, is that I just had it pulled up. Okay, yeah, so for the full year, Upwork expects to see their revenue between $620 and $630 million for the full year. And to put that into perspective, we could see in 2020 their full annual revenue was $374 million. In 2019 it was $301 million. So like they're doubling, they're expected to double their revenue in like 3 years or so.
Yeah, that's really good news that they're actually going to double that revenue like that. So hopefully that ends up helping them. But like you said, I mean, they just ended up going down with earnings. And the good news with them, Mike, is that they've been kind of moving with these other growth stocks. So as we start to see the whole growth industry in general start to rise, I would think that Upwork would start to come up as well. I mean, obviously the daily chart, it could still fill this gap to the downside maybe or something like that. But I mean, we're pretty close to that bottom support. And I think it's a fairly good setup for the longer term. And, it's not my favorite play ever, but I will say it's just like the other growth stocks. They're obviously in some of the beginning stages of their company, and they obviously have a little bit of work to do to get back up there.
Yeah, so we'll see. But either way, I mean, they're kind of all over the place, and no one really talks about them. Like, everyone always talks about AMD, Apple, I guess you could say Microsoft, Tesla. So I figured I'd definitely cover it a little bit, especially with Mike asking that question. So hopefully that answered your question, Mike. Thanks for asking it. What else do we have? Welcome to the stream, Vicky. We have trading saying AMD 130 and Microsoft 300. So yeah, they're getting pretty close to those levels. I mean, Tom, what are you seeing so far in the market? I mean, there's not like any major news, but what setups are you watching?
I'll be honest, this AMD setup does not look too bad to the downside, in my opinion. Yesterday, we just had one red candle, and we might have a bit of a continuation today, it looks like. It's having a lot of trouble getting back to the upside here at market open. And, if AMD falls below 124, I could see them starting to fall off in a bit of a major way today. Like I said, almost just going like on a continuation of yesterday's downwards movement. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. The SPY had a pretty bad pre-market, or I should say pretty bad after hours, and it just has not been looking good the past few days. It seems like every time we get some good momentum, some selling pressure comes in and drives it right back down. So I'm just hoping to see a good breakout one way or the other with the market. But like I said earlier in the morning, really eyeing up those big tech stocks, and it looks like AMD is turning right back over, which is not a good sign. Same thing with Apple. I mean, it's kind of flat, but it is turning back over as of now. So we'll have to eye up that market, because if it starts to fall back down, it's not going to be good. But I will say overall today, my watch list is way more in the green than it is in the red. And, in the red, we have some stocks like Lucid, AMD, Peloton, but honestly, not too many huge like market makers. But I will say though, like a lot of stocks are doing pretty decent. Like we have a Visa card like running up, but keep in mind a lot of these stocks are only up like 1%. Not too much movement here.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And like now we even have Apple in the red by like 0.09%, but we have our beloved DraftKings up 4%. So it's like, remember the days, Tom, where like the market would be up just like blasting, and then like DraftKings and all the other growth stocks would just be like getting absolutely destroyed. So it's kind of nice to see the opposite.
It really is. We might finally be seeing that transition that we've been waiting for, Mike. And, the growth stocks have been kind of following the overall market over the past few weeks. So I'm hoping that we keep seeing this opposite movement as well. And honestly, like it's looking pretty good. Like you said, DraftKings is up quite a bit. Square is having one heck of a day. So it's looking pretty good. And, even stocks like CHPT are starting to move back up.
Nice. Awesome. All right, I'm even seeing some decent movement out of the ARK fund, so that's interesting. I know that's been beaten down quite a bit over like the past year or so, but Tesla still plays a pretty big role in that. And with Tesla moving the way it is, it's gonna be a little bit tough for ARK to move up, like especially intraday. Tesla's actually taking a beating right now. I mean, it's nothing like excessive, but it tried to run up in pre-market, but it looks like we're getting rejected right down to that 900 support.
Yeah, there's a pretty big support there, right around 900. That rejection is not looking good, actually. That we got rejected at like some pretty big resistance levels, right around like 914 to 915. So not good there. And if we fall below 900, Mike, I mean, there's a pretty big support down here around 880, and I could see it personally touching that. Tesla's been really failing to break above 940 this week, and it's just we've almost triple topped up there. That's just a terrible sign. And we also keep bouncing off of this blue trend line. And, this trend line, we're looking at it on a 5-minute chart, but we can go back and look at that blue trend line on like a max daily chart and just see how many bounces this has had. And when we see this, it's kind of confirming off of this trend line right now back to the downside at that 940 resistance as well. So definitely eye this one up. If we start to see this one tumble off, it's not going to make for a good next couple of weeks, but I'm really hoping that they end up holding some big supports like around 880, but we'll have to see how this one ends up playing out.
Gotcha. Alrighty, let's see. I'm just going to do a quick scan to see some plays that we have like breaking out right now, so just give me a minute for that. Square is still powering up in a pretty strong way, but Tom, I will say that today does not look to be a good day for chip stocks. AMD and Nvidia, it's looking pretty rough so far. Both of them are selling off in like a pretty tough way, and the market is, at least holding up. But like these chip stocks are definitely turning over.
Yeah, they are, and I'm pretty worried. AMD is down to that pre-market low right around 124. If we keep falling down like this, it's not going to make for a good day. And like I said earlier, it looks like on the daily chart, like this one could have a pretty big move to the downside. I'm not saying we're going to fall like 5% or anything, but I could see this one definitely continuing lower today. The daily chart setup just looks pretty good to the downside. But as far as intraday movement, we are at that intraday support at 124, and I'm definitely going to be looking for that to go lower, Mike. And going over to the to AMD's bigger brother Nvidia, they're getting really close to the 255 support. So yeah, both of these are straddling those levels in a pretty big way. And if they fall below, I mean, it's not going to make for good movement. Like we said though, there is, I feel like, enough green, other stocks like in the green, for example, in the S&P 500 that's holding it up at least a little bit. But obviously we'll just have to see how it ends up moving, because that QQQ looks like it's starting to turn over a little bit more drastically.
Yeah. Well, how's MU doing? Because I know the other day MU was just blasting up and kind of moving by itself.
Yeah, it still is kind of. It is turning over here a little bit. It's in the green, which is good news. That's great, but it is starting to turn over here over the past like few minutes. So it is doing decent this morning. They bounced off their $90 support, so as long as they can hold that, they'll do pretty good, I think. But overall, I mean, if we see AMD continue to sell off, I just feel like that MU might start to sell off as well. And looking at MU on like the daily chart, they were doing very nice this week, but they're getting up to those major resistances right around those all-time highs again.
Gotcha. Interesting. Another one that I wanted to look at was the firm, Tom. It looks like this one is still just bleeding off after that I don't even know what you would call it yesterday. I don't
Like a
know.
blunder, I guess.
Yeah, so we we can call it that, but like it's down another 12%. It's getting really close to that $50 level. So I guess if anyone wanted to buy Affirm shares, now's the time. Because, I mean, Tom, just a couple months ago, this stock was at 176.
Yeah, that's insane to see it all the way down to $50. And the good news is, Mike, is that we're still not below the lows of a few weeks ago. So I think that's a great sign. If we would have fallen below, $50 back down towards 46 like we did back in May, I would have been pretty worried about it. But I'm still worried about it. Obviously, that was not good to see it move down like that, and the earnings came in just not up to par. So obviously, the stock is just tanking down today, and that was insane to see, Mike, how they accidentally tweeted out their earnings yesterday before the market closed. Like, how do you even do that? I don't know who was in charge of that, but somebody's going to get in trouble.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we have George mentioning DDOG holding up nicely. So I don't really watch this one too much, but I know that they're definitely a big player, and they're moving pretty well so far.
Yeah, they really are, actually. This is looking like a pretty nice setup. They're bouncing off that 175 support, looking pretty bullish. I will say that move yesterday in pre-market with their earnings was very nice, and they held their ground, and it's setting up very well. It's starting to break out. This is definitely one I think that we should be throwing on the watch list here, and it's already up 3.5%, but if we could even get back up to that high of yesterday around 185, it would make for some great movement.
True. All right, Square's still going, Tom. I know we already talked about it multiple times today, but it's up 7% now. It's still going. IV is jumping to the upside, so keep an eye on it. You know, we've been talking about it for a while, and it's been struggling for a while, to be completely fair. But it is nice to see it finally popping back up. It's been just getting destroyed with all the other growth stocks, and Tom, maybe it looks like we're seeing a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up here. You know, earnings are in, what, a week or two?
Yeah, it does look like we are seeing that. Yeah, they are in a couple of weeks. It looks like around 13 days. So we'll have to eye this one up into those earnings. I know that it's going to be pretty important to see how they end up looking, especially with their guidance. I know that obviously they went down. Facebook went down too. And we've just seen a lot of these growth stocks tanking off. Unfortunately, Square has been thrown into that sector, but they are rocketing back, Mike, and I love how on the daily chart they're forming a really good support, and it's not like they're forming this at some random level. They're forming this right at the $100 support. Like, that's one of the best psychological levels in the market. So hopefully $100 holds up. We have almost like a triple bottom going on down here, and I could see this one starting to really come up over the next few weeks. At least I would think we could retest this 140 resistance eventually.
Sounds good. And then while we have Square up 7%, we have DraftKings up 5%. So I will take it. DraftKings is looking pretty good. We're trying to get back to that $25 level. It looks like there's a little bit of resistance right around 24 to 24.18, which was actually the high of yesterday.
Yeah, that's insane, actually. I hope it gets back up above that. I know 24 was definitely a big resistance yesterday. It almost double topped, and if we break that, hopefully it can have enough momentum to keep going. We're already up 5%. I don't know how much more it can end up going, but I'd love to see it continuing on this run. Looking at it on the 180-day, 1-hour chart, I mean, we've touched $24 so many times over the past few months, Mike. Wow, I mean, that's a huge level. So hopefully we break that and end up flying up. I know that sometimes, sometimes these growth stocks, they'll break and then they'll fake people out a little bit and come back. So hopefully we see some nice movement.
Yeah, watch it come back and just be break even in a couple hours.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It kind of did it yesterday, but man, I mean, today it's looking pretty explosive. And the good news is we're seeing all the other growth stocks up too.
True. I actually made a video on Corsair yesterday, and I've been wanting to cover that one a little bit more. It's been having a pretty good recovery lately. Their earnings were pretty decent. I mean, they're up 1.5% today. It's nothing crazy, but I feel like we haven't talked about this one in a little bit.
Yeah, we haven't, and I like it. It's one of my favorite stocks for the longer term, and like you said, it's starting to turn around in a pretty good way. Those earnings were decent. One good thing as well is that IV kind of took a dip after those earnings, kind of like we see happen a lot of times. So hope, that might make the options pricing a little bit better here for people if they are looking for something like that. But we'll just have to see how those are looking. But man, on the 5 minute chart, it's looking decent. It definitely doesn't have the explosive movement today we're seeing out of some growth stocks, but I will say it's been running ever since those earnings, which is great. And hopefully they can break above that high around 22.13 from yesterday. I think that would make for some good movement.
Sounds good. And I saw you watching Roblox, Tom, and that one's looking pretty good. It's up 2%, and it's also been having a pretty awesome recovery from its lows of right around like $53.60, and now it's all the way back up to 71. So what's going on here?
Yeah, this one's really running. I mean, it's moving up in a pretty big way here. They had those amazing deals earlier in the week with the NFL. I know that the NFL was partnering with Roblox to do like a NFL tycoon within the Roblox game. So sounds pretty cool. Looks like you're going to be able to play some NFL stuff within there. They're going to have earnings coming up on February 15th. And I would not be surprised if they had some good guidance for the future because, they're getting into so many different things. Companies are starting to really back Roblox. I remember a few months ago, they were getting into deals with like Louis Vuitton and stuff like that for them to add items into the game. And, with the NFL getting in, I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I would think that maybe some of these other sports companies and just other companies in general would start to eye up Roblox as a good way for advertisement and just a good way to get your name out there. So hopefully Roblox reports good numbers, Mike. They're getting pretty explosive. And as we know, Nancy Pelosi's in this one. So, this one might end up taking a pretty big move to the upside. She doesn't lose too often.
And she has like the 100 strike calls, I think. I think it's like the 100 strike calls for like January of 2023. I can be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's those ones. So we'll see, like you said, Tom. But Vicky's also asking for some levels on this one. So what do you have?
Yeah, for Roblox, there's a huge support level that we're like straddling right now, right around $70. And if we look at this on the 180-day 1 hour chart, like I said, we're just straddling it. We're not really breaking above it, but we're not really breaking below it either. It's just kind of going stagnant at this level. So I would think that we could start to get some good movement to the upside, especially with the way we're seeing the growth stocks move today. So $70 will be a good support. Below that, I up 65. I think that's going to be the next one, with 60 being the real major one below that. And then as we start to rise, I'm seeing a huge resistance around $79 to $80. So definitely eye up that. I think that's going to be the most important level to look at. There is some resistance, of course, at 75. And it looks like there's like, this one has resistance at every like $5 mark. So it looks like 70, 75, and then 80.
Alrighty. And then what levels do you have for Square? She was also looking at that one.
Oh yeah, Square's actually bouncing off some great levels here. For support, we're gonna have to look at $100. That's just such a big level. It's a huge psychological level, and there's a huge wall here on the stock. We've just failed to break below that. So $100 even is gonna be huge. Intraday for Square, there's a big resistance around 120. If we can get up above that, I'll really like the movement for Square today. And then after 120, I'm seeing a big resistance at like 127. So we'll definitely have to eye up those levels.
Sounds good. All right. So looking at the market really quickly, we have a couple questions from Bravo. He said, how do you like the market short squeezing against the odds of news from the Feds? So I don't even know what the short interest is on the SPY. So I would assume it's extremely, extremely low. So I would say the odds of a short squeeze are extremely, extremely, extremely low. There's just it's hard to short squeeze when like no one really is shorting the market to like a major way. So I would say that's pretty low. He said he doesn't like it and he's staying with some cash. And he asked if we could look at Disney. So let's take a look at Disney. It's looking pretty good today. It's just holding its level with after that earnings report, right around 152, but it's holding up pretty well. The market was pretty brutal yesterday, so I guess that can explain some of the profit taking we saw.
Yeah, and we've been seeing a lot of these stocks that flew up in after hours with their great earnings starting to come back down a little bit and just consolidate. Enphase has almost done the same thing. It's just kind of consolidating, and a few other stocks that popped are kind of doing that also. So I don't know. It's just kind of strange to see the movement, but it is holding up. Like you said, it's holding its ground. There's a pretty big support around 152, and Personally, I think it's pretty good movement. You know, it's not falling off by any means, but I am glad to see it holding. And you know, I obviously it's not continuing up with that explosive momentum, but at the same time, you know, you can't expect these stocks to just, you know, run up 30% in 2 days. So it's almost expected to see these consolidation moves like this.
Exactly. Alrighty. He said, FYI, consumer sentiment is coming at 10 a.m. alongside University of Michigan numbers for inflation slash sentiment. And then he said, can you guys look at TNX rates? Yeah, let's take a look. TNX. Yeah, rates are just kind of stagnant today, at least the TNX is, the 10 years. So, I don't know. I mean, the market's holding up so far right now. But, Tom, like, I remember we pulled this up, what was it, like 2 weeks ago now? It was like a chart of how the market did during rate hike cycles. So, like, while rates are rising now and the market doesn't like it, eventually the market's going to be okay with it.
Yeah, they will, and I think I actually have that article here if I can find it. Nope, it's a different one. But
I actually,
yeah,
Tom, I actually have the image. I actually posted it in Discord the other day. You know what? Let me see if I can just send it to you because I know I was looking at it yesterday. Okay, I found it here. Let me copy this.
Cool.
All right, and then I'm gonna send it to you right now. Cool.
And
I
that
just
was
sent
fast.
it to you. Yeah.
You are quick, Mr. Mike. Let's see where I'm trying to open this in a new tab here. Let's see. Open link.
Alrighty.
Oh, I see it. Downloaded it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay. Yep, here we go. So here's the this is gonna be, is this cut off, Mike, or is this within the parameters?
Nope, that's all good.
Okay, great. So yeah, you can see at the main part of the chart that we're going to be looking at is the bottom part of the chart. And you can see it says rate hike cycle started and rate hike cycle ended. And of course the market fell whenever we had that .com bubble, but I'll be honest, you know, a lot of stocks were down like 50% plus during that drop. And for the overall market to only be down 1%, 5%, and 13%, that's honestly not too bad.
Yeah, so clearly, guys, we're looking at the bottom chart because that's the rate hike cycle. The market does pretty well, you know, when rates rise. And, you know, it sucks in the short term, but, you know, just keep that in mind. Like, I know some people are like, all right, the Fed's raising rates and we're going to have a global meltdown. It's just like, it's not true. Like, they need to raise rates at least a little bit, like at least a little bit.
Yeah, like what was the average rate before everything happened? I know before COVID, I think they try to usually keep that rate right around like somewhere like 2% or something like that, I believe.
The inflation rate?
Yeah, the inflation rate. But then also I believe the interest rates were usually hovering like around, I thought like 2.5% or around 2% or something like that, I thought.
Yeah, here, I'm going to pull up the article from yesterday on CNBC because it had that chart for CPI. So let's see. So before the pandemic, yeah, I mean, just like you said, Tom, I mean, inflation was right around, or CPI was right around like 1.7 to like 2.3%. So it was right around that 2% level, like you said, and then clearly now it's at like 7.5.
Yeah, it's insane to see how it's going up. And what did they say that was, Mike? The biggest level since 1982? Like, that's a long time ago. And I know inflation was very rampant in like the 70s and then the early 80s. And, you know, I know how do you remember, Mike, how we had in 1985, we had, I believe it was Black Monday?
What was it, 80, or was it 87? Pretty sure it was 87, but yeah, I know what you mean. Let's see.
Yeah, like in the 80s, we had that humongous crash, and it's crazy to see like that inflation was getting that high back then. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, so Black Monday, 1987, October 19th, but yeah, like, it's been wild, so we'll see what happens, but Tom, it looks like the market's coming down a little bit. We have the VIX trending up there. We have B saying VIX went green, market's dipping. J Deep said AMD's dipping. So I don't know, Tom. We're in for a lot more volatility. And the SPY that's the AMD. AMD broke low of day.
Yeah, the SPY for a second was actually flying up. I was pretty surprised to see it moving up, but look at how volatile it's been. Like, if we look at it on a 1-minute chart, I mean, we flew up, and then within like 10 minutes, we're all the way back now below opening price. So it's definitely a volatile play today. Look at that IV even going all over. Like this has been insane the past few weeks, to be honest. I know the SPY is just, it's been like a heartbeat monitor. I know people were making fun of it in the chat even, and it's just insane to see these types of moves. And honestly, like, it's not good. You know, we're seeing AMD break those lows of days, and if I know, it's not looking good. I think the SPY will just continue to just either go flat or slowly drag to the downside. It's not looking good here. And even if we look at stocks like Apple, for example, even they're turning over, which is a bad sign considering how large they are, and they're almost following AMD here.
No, we need the market to go up.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps going. I wonder how the growth stocks are doing, and it even looks like, oh, even they are pulling back a little bit here.
Come on. Alrighty, so let's see. We have Bravo saying DraftKings is making higher he said also, is DraftKings making higher lows? Yes, it is, like over the past couple weeks. Like if you look at like a monthly chart, then it's not. So yeah, I mean, let me just check, because he was also asking about like rates and stuff. So TNX is fine, Bravo. Like it's not really moving right now. It's actually falling a little bit. So that kind of that's not the cause for that sell off right now. What else do we have moving? I mean, yeah, Tom. I mean, there's not like anything major. I mean, it kind of sucks to see the market pull back, but then again, I guess it can bring a pretty good opportunity for like a couple day trades if we do see like I guess you could say a larger sell off.
Yeah, it definitely could. You know, it does always make for that good intraday type of movement. And talking about intraday movement, I did kind of want to bring up something that we haven't really talked about, Mike, but I remember some people were asking questions about this yesterday, and this was actually ASTR's movement. And yesterday at the end of the day, I know they had a launch that was scheduled to happen on Thursday. Earlier in the week, I believe they delayed their launch, which made their stock go down a little bit. And then on Thursday, they actually had to abort the launch mid-flight as their rocket like spiraled out of control. And we can see that ASTR really tumbled off to the downside. And this is why we have to be so careful trading these types of space stocks, guys. Like I said yesterday, I can't remember who exactly asked the question, but I used to trade SPCE a lot, day trading it and just obviously like buying the dips and holding it and buying it on supports and stuff like that. And there's so much stuff that goes on with these space stocks. They could have so many issues. And yesterday they had an issue mid-flight and it ended up causing their stock to almost half. I mean, they went from $6 down to $3.25, and they're still falling here. And I actually have a pretty cool article for this one, Mike. We can see that they pretty much, their stock drops 25% after their NASA mission fails mid-launch. And the crazy thing is that there's actually video footage of this. And you guys can kind of see here on the video, something's kind of exploding off in the background here. And then it's not too clear, but, you can kind of tell that the rocket's just kind of spiraling out of control. So definitely not good news. And Mike, like, these space stocks are going to be so volatile in their beginning stages. And obviously, like, they are a big proponent to the news. And anytime they launch or anything, just keep in mind, there's always that chance that something goes wrong, like we saw here.
True. Yeah, like you said, like, volatility just describes these space companies, because if that launch would have went like awesome, then this stock could have easily been up like 200%. But clearly that wasn't the case. But maybe the company learns from this and they come back stronger in like a couple months, and maybe that can turn some things around. But I feel like over like the next 5 to 10 years, the space industry will present a lot of opportunities, like especially in the market. I just don't know enough about each individual space stock right now. Like, I believe Cornish asked on the stream yesterday about like ASTR. It's just like they're so volatile. So I guess we'll see, like, as the industry gets more developed, maybe it'll present some more opportunities. Like, we have other opportunities like Rocket Lab, kind of like you have pulled up on the chart now. But we also have Elon's company, SpaceX, that is set to IPO soon, like in the future. I know he said he wants their revenue to get a little bit more stable, I believe.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, actually, because, could you imagine him coming onto the market and maybe having some bad fundamentals? That would just be a terrible situation for them. probably look like a DraftKings or like like all these growth stocks. So I hope he just waits until the right time, or honestly, like with Elon, he might have to keep it public. I know that's gonna suck, but I know that he wants to take it public, but at the same time, there's so many advantages to keep it private, especially with the space stock, because I know that there's just so many different situations where you can possibly get like voted off the board and stuff like that, especially Elon with his tweets. So we'll have to see how that ends up going. And like you would think that would never happen, but it happened to Steve Jobs with Apple. So like it's hard to think about, but I know it's something that is a possibility, especially with some of these guys that are getting subpoenaed from the SEC every other month.
True. Oh gosh. Yeah, Sean said it was me on ASTR. I managed to get 2 cents per contract. That was it. I'm very happy with my returns. There we go, Sean. But yeah, it's been all over the place. Like, no one could have predicted the movement. So it is what it is. And like I said, like maybe they bounce back in a couple months from now. Maybe they learn and adapt, and hopefully they perform better in the future.
Yeah, and they probably will. We saw SPCE do this. If we look at them on the max daily chart here, SPCE, they had a couple good launches, I believe, and they did very well. And then they flew up, and then they tried to do another test launch, and then they had to abort, and their stock fell off. And then, they had another successful thing happen, like a launch or, something like I believe a charter or something like that. And then they end up flying like right back up. And, I'm sure that some of these stocks like ASTR will look the same exact way. And, I will say, like, if you were okay with it being a gamble, it was probably a pretty good one. I know that obviously it tumbled over and you probably lost on your calls now, but in the end, I mean, like Mike said, if that would have went well, I mean, this stock could have easily like doubled overnight. Like we've seen these space stocks do crazy stuff.
True. Alrighty. Let's see. I'm just doing a quick scan. B suggested shorting AMD on the retest. Yeah, it looks like it's trying to bounce right now. Looks like there's a support right around 123. So I feel like the market's going to play a decent role into AMD's movement. Like, obviously, if the market bleeds off, AMD can easily fall off a cliff. But then again, like, if we have the market blasting up 2%, it's going to be harder for AMD to fall. But, we'll see what happens. But it's definitely looking pretty weak so far.
Yeah, it is. And I could see it falling off. It might take until later in the day. Obviously, stuff usually doesn't just go straight down. So we'll have to see how it ends up playing out. But there is a bit of support at 123, like you said. So maybe the stock will hold here. But it's just, to me, it's not looking too good. I would think that like later in the day, we might see a continued sell-off. But we'll just have to see how the movement ends up playing out. Because, if we end up double bottoming at 123 and getting some good movement back up, then, we'll just have to change our perspective.
Yep. True that. Let's see. Just doing a couple other quick scans. It looks like MMM is looking decent today. We never talk about this company, Tom. It's actually only up 0.8%. It was technically a breakout, but maybe just disregard it. It's not really moving.
Yeah, it's not really doing anything. Just like every day, it just it's a very slow moving stock. I used to hold this one for the long term. I actually got out of it after it recovered back after COVID, somewhere I had bought it around this white circle around 154. I actually held it through all of this all the bad movement here. Ended up getting out of it around 165, I believe, or 160. So not too bad, but honestly, it's all the way back down to where I bought it, and it's falling back down to the downside. Definitely not good. And I know that this is going to be a super slow moving stock. We can see this stock is in a pretty crazy setup. It's been moving down for the past couple of years, and it is starting to recover back a little bit. But I just, it's a tough company. Obviously, they're a slow mover. I will say the good thing about Triple M is that they pay a high dividend, and their dividend is always growing. So that's good news. And I would think that for the longer term, they would be a decent hold. But at the same time, it's probably not going to make you the same returns that other stocks would. But I will say it's a pretty safe-ish company.
Yeah, safe-ish. It's a safe-ish company.
Yeah, it's safe-ish. I mean, they got good numbers and stuff. They should hold up. That's the good news. It's just that, it's probably going to just trade between this range maybe for another year before finally breaking 200.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have Bravo asking about consumer sentiment. Shout out Hunter. So yeah, Hunter got the he posted that, and then I also looked at it too. So the University of Michigan consumer sentiment fell to 61.7, the lowest since 2011. So shout out again, Hunter, for that the help there. But yeah, it's not really that important of news in my opinion. But what else do we have going on? We have Raymond saying, how do I swing trade Lyft to the downside today? Well, let's take a look. So Lyft is down 0.5% today. It looks like it's trying to bounce off a decent support right around, what would you say that is, Tom? Like 41.50 or so? Let me look a little bit more. Yeah, I guess you could say like 41.50. It's trying to bounce off that, but I don't know if I would swing trade this one to the downside. Like there's a lot of support that this one has. Like it's kind of overextended on the daily, which is good, but I don't know. I mean, it's not my favorite setup. Like it can fall. It's just like it can easily fall. It's just, is it worth the risk? And that's where my concern is.
Yeah, and I don't think I would swing it. If anything, like maybe if it falls below, like you said, that 41.50 support today, maybe it can make for a good intraday trade. You know, maybe they'll fall down towards $40 after that or something. But I just don't think it'll be a good swing personally. But looking at it on the daily, like you said, Mike, it's definitely looking overextended. And, you know, we hit that SMA right around that resistance up there around $45, and we're coming back to the downside. And, you know, I could definitely see it going lower. It's just like you said, it has to break that support first. And personally, I would just play it for a quick in and out day trade. I don't think I'd swing it.
Yeah. And then Daniel asked about DCFC and then MU. So DCFC, this one is all over the place. Oh, I actually remember this one from earlier in the week, Tom. Someone asked about
Biden he was standing next to this during his EV charging funding announcement.
Ah, I gotcha. So yeah, I mean, it is just kind of falling off the board right now. Daniel asked about the levels we see. I would say here, let me look a little bit more in depth. I would say there is a pretty decent support right around 12, which is the level it's at right now. There's also another support right around 10 and 9. So it's like the nice whole dollar levels with this one. 9, 10, and 11 are the supports. So that's easy to remember. In terms of resistance, 13 and 15, Tom. What's going on with this one? It's all the whole dollar levels. But it's just like a hype play.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to be a hype move, and you know they're getting into a pretty crazy sector. Keep this in mind, and I actually have the article here. Really quick, we can see that. Oh, actually, hang on, it didn't come over to the screen, but here we go. We can see that the White House is rolling out $5 billion funding plan to states for electric vehicle chargers, and you know, $5 billion, it's a lot, but is it the most in the world? No, but in the end, though, we can see that Biden, whenever he made this announcement, he was standing next to a tritium charger, which is interesting. And you know, I know Elon would have preferred him standing next to his, and obviously Blink and ChargePoint were probably a little upset as well. But either way, though, this stock ended up getting a pretty good pop, and yeah, it's honestly holding that $12 support today, and it's going to be a hype play, like Mike said. It's going to be very volatile, and look at that implied volatility, Mike, 211%. Like this is almost like AMC levels here.
True, true that. He also mentioned MU, so MU is not really doing anything today. It's holding its ground pretty well, but giant support at 90 and resistance right around like 94.64.
Yeah, that big resistance up there is going to be tough, and you know, it's so flat today that it's hard for me to play it. Like I would think with the way it's holding up, it might be a good play to the upside, but you know, we'll have to see how that overall market does. If the SPY continues to tank off like this, I could see MU starting to pull back down, kind of like what we saw at the end of the day yesterday. So hopefully this one keeps holding its ground and goes. I know that it's been having a very nice week, but keep in mind also it's been so explosive that we might start to see it consolidate a little bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. So for me, MU is definitely a no play because it's like, one, I never think it's a smart idea to like short like a powerhouse company that is blasting to the upside with a lot of momentum. Like in certain circumstances, like I consider a short on that setup, but it's like I'm not going to short like a company like that. And at the same time, it's like MU literally just blasted from $80 all the way up to like $94.64 over like the past week. So it's like stocks can only move so much when they're, as big as MU. So it's like it's just like a total no play in my opinion. I feel like there's no like I just feel like it's uncertain. I feel like it's a coin flip because it's already up so much. It's already a giant company, and at the same time, it's like it's in the past. Like it's hard to short this one, so I would say skip it.
Yeah, me too. And then we also just touched that major resistance level there, so it's going to be a tough one to play. And plus, like if you're looking for a nice play like to the upside, maybe we can just go like find some other possible like candidates for good plays to the upside. I know like Square's pulling back here. Looks like Oxy, they might be a good play if they end up breaking their high of day from yesterday. I'm trying to find some good plays, getting momentum to the upside. It looks like a lot of these stocks are now starting to pull back down a little bit. Looks like Roku is starting to maybe come back up. So hopefully we can see some better opportunities here pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll see. I want to give a shout out to Sean and then BN. Looks like they're doing great on these AMD puts, Tom. Sean's been all over those AMD puts all morning, and so has B Trading. So there we go, guys. AMD's tanking down, and it looks like it's a good day for you.
Yeah, awesome trades, guys. Like, I've been calling out AMD in the day trades every single day pretty much. I actually called out BABA today just to switch it up, but I wanted to call out AMD again. Yesterday's play worked out great. We fell below 128 at the middle to end of the day and had some pretty explosive moves, and today's been awesome, Mike. We fell below that 124 support in pre-market, and we're tanking all the way down now below 122. And actually, 122 was a pretty big support from earlier in the week. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see a bit of a bounce here, but this stock is starting to go down in a major way. This stock fell almost like 5% yesterday, so we're already down 3% today. It might continue down a little lower.
Dang. How's Nvidia?
It's probably just as bad. Yeah, let's check it out. Yeah, they're breaking below 255, which is a major level for them. And yeah, they are also exploding to the downside, which is it's a bad sign, but hey, it's great for these day trades. And if you guys are taking advantage of this, awesome news. Great trades, Cornish and then B trade. That's awesome to see. And AMD is just having a great move here. I've been loving the movement out of this stock lately, even to the upside. I mean, it's just been a good stock to trade in general. Like whenever it picks a direction, it generally continues for a couple days.
There we go. Tom, I know I already said this, but it's a good day, so I'll say it again. I love how, we have companies like, I'm not trying to hate on AMD, but, we have certain big companies selling off, and we have good old DraftKings blasting to the upside, up 5%. Like, Tom, it's so relieving to see DraftKings in the green when everything or when a lot of other things are just tanking down. But it's about time, and I feel like DraftKings should have never even got to this level. That's just my opinion. But either way, let's go. It's up 5%.
Yeah, let's go. That's awesome to see. I really hope we break 24.18 today. It's having a very nice intraday move here. It did consolidate for a while, and now we're going on that second run. Once we break 24, I'm really hoping to see a nice move. And looking at DraftKings, it's been so beaten down. Like, we need this move to happen. They recently came onto the market in New York, which is great news. And, obviously New York is such a big state. I know that DraftKings isn't the leader there, but still, though, it's great to see them getting onto the market. And obviously more states will be doing that in the future as well. So really like the movement today. The way that they're moving compared to the overall market's awesome. Let's check out the SPY. Yeah, it's really good to see this type of opposite movement like this. That's great to see. And honestly, it's so relieving, Mike. We got DraftKings in the green, Square, and it's great. Like, I wonder how Facebook's doing. Oh man, Facebook's not looking good. I didn't mean to rain on. I was hoping to see them in the green, Mike. I messed up. I'm going back to MU now.
Oh gosh. Then we have Dante asking about Microsoft. So let's take a look at good old Microsoft. It is down 1%. It's not looking too good in my opinion. Like, Microsoft is obviously a solid company, but for today it might be just like some day trading type plays, maybe some puts, maybe like a dip buying calls later in the day, but I don't know. Definitely the momentum is to the downside right now.
Yeah, it is, and it's scary, Mike. We just fell below $300 on Microsoft. I know that the last time we fell below that was pre-market last Friday, it looks like, or actually, yeah, pre-market last Friday, and we fell below 300 down to 297, and then rocketed right back up before the market opened. But today, I mean, we're falling below it as the market's already open. Definitely not a good sign, and I could see this one keep going, Mike, at least down to 297.28, that low of the other day. And I'm not saying Microsoft's going to crash and burn, but like you said, it might be a good day trading opportunity today. It looks kind of like AMD and Nvidia. So honestly, I mean, it would have been better to have traded AMD and Nvidia earlier than to get in Microsoft now. But, still, it looks like a pretty good opportunity considering that it broke 300 and we're starting to move down because, man, 300 is just such a key level here.
True that. Alrighty, so I just want to give a personal thank you to everyone who joined the stream really quickly. So thank you guys so much for joining. Shout out Square, Keisha, Matt, Kenya, George, Michael, Hunter, Mike, B Trading, Vicky, Bravo, and let's see, J Deep, Sean, Daniel, Raymond, Johnny, who else? Dante. And I think that's everyone. So, guys, thank you guys so much for joining today. Tom, do you have any last-minute plays or anything you're watching for the day?
We just saw the breakout with DraftKings, Mike. We broke out up above the high. We're up to 24.32. Hopefully these stocks keep running. The breakout play looks pretty good here. Hopefully it doesn't fake out on us, but it's already having a day up 6.5%. Hopefully it continues. It's such a great move from DraftKings, even from Square. So far this morning, it's been looking pretty good. Not as explosive as DraftKings, but I mean, I'll take it out of these companies. It's definitely looking pretty decent. But yeah, DraftKings is really running up now. Hopefully it continues, Mike. And I'm really hoping to see the overall market just pick a direction. It's been really flat. And if it continues up, hopefully that helps DraftKings just go even higher.
Exactly. There we go. And then one last question. We have J Deep saying, is SPY at 449 support? Yeah, I mean, it is a support level, but I would say there's also a couple other key levels to watch, like 446 and even like a little bit right around like 447. So, and there's actually even a little bit more at like 448 that we kind of bounce off of this morning. So there's a lot of big support levels with the SPY right now. But besides that, guys, hopefully this awesome movement continues with DraftKings, and hopefully the market holds up well so we could have a great end of the week. But again, thank you guys so much for joining, and have a great weekend.